العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا وقدوتنا محمد عليه أفضل الصلاة وأزكى التسليم. اللهم علمنا بما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما يا رب العالمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Everybody, welcome. Saturday morning, beginning classical Arabic. I've got my cappuccino. I hope you have yours. Bismillah. And today we start an exciting new lesson and an exciting new concept. Yeah, alhamdulillah. This is very nice. This is very good. So, the most significant thing that we had done in the previous handful of lessons was adding the wrinkle of gender to our knowledge of Arabic. Right? Arabic is a much more gendered language than English, or we should say that Arabic does not have a neuter, it, right? Whereas English has three genders, masculine, feminine, and the neuter, it. Arabic has two, and so everything gets to go through the dichotomy of male and female. Now we're going to add another wrinkle. Okay, and we saw how that wrinkle played out depending on the type of word we were dealing with, right? We saw how the feminine kind of expression, or the typical feminine expression in nouns, was the ta marbuta, right? All right, here, yep, there it is right there. Surprise emoji, right? Was the ta marbuta. And how the expression of femininity, at least singular femininity, this is a foreshadowing, we're all dealing with singular things here. Femininity in nouns is with the ta marbuta. Femininity with verbs is with the ta maftuha, or your normal, what you're used to thinking of as ta. And that was enough. Then we just everything else was variation on that theme. Now we're adding another wrinkle. Yes. And that is number, right? Every language has, or at least I'm not aware of any language that does not have something like a plural, right? When we talked previously about the construction of sifa mawsuf, a noun, and the adjective that describes it, we said it had to match in four things, okay? This is the last of the four things that we haven't really studied, okay? Which is exciting. Yay. Like, we're kind of closing, we're nearing the end of a very, very big milestone. The first of the four things was, well, let's have you guys do it. What were the four things? If we have sifa mawsuf, we have a noun and its adjective that's describing it as part of a construction. They have to agree in four things. What are those four things? Definite, indefinite. Okay, that was one of the first things we looked at, right? We looked at alif lam, the, which is the definite particle the, al-kitab, al-kitabu, versus the indefinite kitabun, right? Any tanween is the indefinite article. So al-kitabu versus kitabun. If we wanted to say the new book, al-kitabul jadidu, right? Has to have alif lam, alif lam. Or if we said that I bought a new book, it would be kitaban jadidan, right? It would be nakira, nakira, indefinite, indefinite, tanween, tanween, right? That was the first thing that we learned. The second thing that we learned was, and this is the only one that Sister Masarrat did not mention, which is grammatical case, right? I've been boring you and lecturing you all this time about grammatical case because it's very, very important in Arabic, and it's very different from English. So if it's marfu', if it's majroor, if it's mansub, right? If it is in the nominative case, the genitive case, the accusative case, And what does that mean? The nominative case is the case of the subject, what we wish to talk about, or the doer of the verb. The genitive case is talking about the relationship between two nouns. That relationship can either be time, location, or possession. And then the accusative case is something that is having work done to it, right? The object of a verb. And that's expressed in different ways depending on what type of word. The primary signs of grammatical case, the dhamma for marfu', the kasra for majroor, and the fatha for mansub. Okay, so that was the second thing that we have to attend to. First was definite or indefinite. The second thing is grammatical case. The third thing, which we just got done learning about, is gender. Okay, if it's at-talib, at-talibul jadidu, okay, or it's feminine, at-talibatul jadidatu, right? Tamarbuta, it has to agree. That leaves us with just the final frontier when it comes to these four concepts that affect nouns very, very heavily. And that is number. Number. Okay, I'm going to give you an overview or a bird's eye view intro to number in Arabic, and then we're going to go into the dialogue. Do it with this blank space right here. Okay. So, if we look at making things plural, or we look at number in Arabic, it is more complicated than English. Okay? So first thing that we're going to look at is the singular, okay? Then we're going to look at, or we're just going to acknowledge the existence of, we're not going to study it right now, something very special in Arabic that doesn't exist in most languages, which is a dual number, okay? And then finally, we have plural. However, plural, there are different types of plural. We'll get into those too, okay? So with plural, we're saying it communicates the idea that there's 3 plus of something, okay? Singular is used for one, dual is used for a pair, and plural in Arabic, strictly speaking, is for 3 and above, okay? Colloquially, these days, Arabic on the street, nobody really uses the dual very much. You can use the plural for 2 and above, just like we do in English. But in classical Arabic, this is kind of the norm. If we have something that's singular in English, book, and we want to make it then plural, what do? We add an S. And anyone who's ever taught English will realize that this is part of the confusion, because we add an S for nouns to make them plural, but we add an S to verbs for the third person singular. He walks. Right? And then we add an S for possession. Tom's pen, right? So English is the language of S. Okay. In Arabic, it's not so straightforward, okay? Singular is straightforward. You learn the word. We'll go with this translation. Kitab. Okay. Dual, we're not going to worry about it right now. Plural, in Arabic, there are 3 types of plural. 3 types of plural. We can divide those 3 types into 2 broad categories. The first category we can call sound plural. And this is for human beings. And then the second type, or the second category of plurals is what they call broken plural. Okay? And that is used for non-humans. All right, let's get some lines in here. Make a little chart. There you go. Separate everything out. Separate everything out. Here. Okay. There are two types of sound plural, which is why there's three types of total plural. And they fall on the lines of gender. Okay. So that means that we have a sound masculine plural and we have a sound feminine plural. The sound masculine and sound feminine plural are super, super easy. You probably already know them, at least intuitively, from the different ayahs or the dua that you know. Okay? So in order to demonstrate the differences between these, we're going to have to use more than just kitab as an example, right? Because kitab is a non-human, and so it's going to have a broken plural. It's not going to have a sound masculine or feminine plural. Okay, and we're going to go through the sound plurals first because the sound plurals are easier. So let's take an example of a human. Let's say Muslim. A Muslim is a type of human, or it's an adjective that applies to a human being. This is in the masculine form. The feminine form would simply be Muslima. Forgot my meme there. Muslimatun, just like we learned. Add a ta marbuta to the end, and it becomes, that is very, very poor penmanship. All right, I'm going to do that over. That's just embarrassing. There we go. Everything's about space. Okay, so we have Muslim, Muslima, or Muslimatun. The sound, what if we want to say Muslims? Muslims. Because this is a human, or applies to humans, we're going to use the sound masculine plural. And how to make the sound masculine plural is simply to add something onto the end of the word. Just like in English where we add the S, here we're going to add to Muslim, Muslimun, right? Which should be very, very familiar to you. Al-Muttaqun, Al-Falihun, Al-Muflihun, right? In the Quran all the time. This is the sound masculine plural. Why do they call it sound masculine plural? What they mean by that is that the stem of the noun remains intact, doesn't change, right? You can find the word Muslim inside of Muslimun. You've simply added a suffix to it. And this is in the nominative case marfu'. We'll talk later about what it is in different cases. What if we have Muslimatun? We're looking for the sound feminine plural, okay? Since it's a sound plural, we're also just going to be adding something onto the end. Muslim is the root, Muslimat, which again, you've probably heard of before through the Quran, through your dua, al-mu'minat, al-qanitat, right? The say is your daughter Inaya was on this chapter when we were doing Sunday school, right? Mu'minat, al-muslimat, al-qanitat, ta'ibat, right? All these kind of adjectives of wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that ended with at, because it all is the sound feminine plural. And again, we'll talk about grammatical case later. But this is the pattern. Un at. And you see how it is sound because the stem of the word, the noun, remains intact. All right, now let's get to the difficult words, which are the inanimate objects, the non-humans, and the broken plural.
One question, just for.
Why do they call it broken plural? Broken plural is the opposite of sound because this root noun is not going to remain intact. Anyone have a question?
Yes, I have a question. So Muslim and Muslimatun.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
So Muslim and Muslimatun, they both are singular.
Correct.
The Muslima is when we say just Muslima.
Yes. When we say Muslima is when we're pronouncing this at the end of our speech. Because recall that in Quran and in spoken Arabic, if you end your speech with a ta marbuta, you pronounce it like a ha. You don't pronounce the tun. Hiya muslima. Here in class, we pronounce everything in order to practice because you can't, if I'm asking you and I want to tell if you've identified the correct grammatical tense that it should be in, you can't say muslima and then expect to skate by. Like we're saying them all in class in order to prove that we understand the grammar. But in spoken Arabic and in the Quran, anything that ends with a ta marbuta and you stop there is going to be pronounced with a ha, whereas anything where you continue and keep going is going to be pronounced like a ta, which is why they write it half and half. That half is the ha, that half is the ta. If you're looking for an example, I'll say al-qari'ah, right? That ends with a ta marbuta. If we wanted to connect, we wanted to continue on from the first verse without taking a break, al-qari'atu mal-qari'ah, right? If we continue, we have to pronounce the ta marbuta as a ta. If we stop at a ta marbuta, we have to pronounce it as a ha. So this is what's going on. We say muslima. That's just, we're saying muslimatun, but we're not pronouncing the ending.
Proper way of saying, like in a correct way, is Muslimatun. If it's just a single word to say.
If it's just a single word to say, the actual correct way is muslima. But because unless it's Arabic poetry, but because we're in class and we need to demonstrate that we understand that it's muslimatun and not muslimaten or muslimatin, in class we're always going to pronounce all of the endings, even more than what we would say in actual speech or in reciting the Quran.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. That's like we say, Qul huwallahu ahad, right? In the Quran and in Arabic speech, we do not pronounce tanween. In reality, this is ahadun, right? But you can't get up and recite the Quran in front of people and say, Qul huwallahu ahadun. No, that's not right, right? However, when we're in class, we say ahadun to prove that we understand that ahadun is the khabar, right? And so this is, etc. It's tanween and nakira, etc., etc. That's a good question. Okay, excellent. So now we get to the difficult part, which is the broken plural. Any non-human noun is going to have a broken plural. And regretfully, there are many, many, many patterns of the broken plural. Okay? With the sound masculine plural, there's only one pattern. Un. With the sound feminine plural, there's only one pattern. But with the broken plural, there are many, many, many patterns. And most of them just need to be memorized, which is a shame. Very few things are like that in Arabic, but this one is. So if we have kitab, which grammatically would be kitabun, then the plural is kutubun. Now somebody could say, hey, Imam, what do you mean it's a broken plural? I see all the same letters. And I would reply to you, what are you talking about? The alif has gone missing. First of all, alif has been axed. Second of all, the harakat have changed. The kaf used to have a kasra. Now it has a dhamma. The ta used to have a fatha. Now it has a dhamma too. The word has changed completely. Whereas muslim, muslimat, muslim, muslimun is exactly the same as its singular form. That's what we mean when we say broken plural. Okay, let's take a couple other examples. So we have, go with the kaf again, kelb. Azakum Allah. Right, a dog. First letter has a fatha. Lam has a sukoon, and then this is up to the grammar. Okay? What's the plural? Kilab. So the kaf goes from having a fatha to having a kasra. We add an alif. And the lam, which before had a sukun, has a fatha. Miftah. What's the plural of miftah? You went for the hard one. Mafatih. Now there are, I'm going to have to break out my morphology book and do some review because there are some patterns, right? So for example, ta'am, which is food. Okay. I recall off the top of my head that most things on this phonetic pattern with a, this is not the same pattern as kitab because it has a fatha in the beginning, ta'am and not ti'am. Most things are going to go onto the pattern of at'imah. At'imatun. Right? So this is not to be exhaustive. This is just our first introduction to plurals. The most important thing is your expectations have been set. You understand now what are the categories, okay? We have singular, easy. Okay, just like Arabic forces every noun through a gender binary, male, female. Everything is also in a binary of human, non-human in the plural. Not in the singular, in the plural. And that affects what type of plural it's going to have. Things that are that are humans or applied to humans will have a sound plural matching their gender, either masculine or feminine, which is very easy. You can learn it in one day, no problem. And then anything that is not human is going to have a broken plural, and that is going to take time. That's going to take you time to get familiar with the types of patterns and hearing it over and over, and then it becomes recognized. Does anybody have any questions up until this point? Okay, are we ready for the dialogue then? I'm going to erase all this. Anybody who wants to take a screenshot, go ahead. All right, away we go. We have *1 and *2. Let's start with, can we have Syra and Sister Musarrat? Syra, can you be *1? And the Sister Musarrat, can you be start too?
Okay. Man ha el tutawalu. Oh, sorry. Tiwalu ya Ali. Ali yun.
هم طلاب جدد.
Good. Stop there for a second. Excellent. So we're gonna work through the weeds here. Okay. New vocabulary. Haula. Haula'i is a demonstrative pronoun, right? So singular was hadha, hadhihi, right? Close. Plural, haula'i. And haula'i is the easy thing about this is for masculine or feminine, doesn't matter. It's always going to be haula'i. So we have in the singular, we have hadha, which is this, or hadhihi, also this, but it is feminine. And the plural, we have haula'i. Notice that this is alif, ha, u, la, i. Very good. Next point. Al-fityatu. Oh, that's our first plural that they gave us. So we learned that the singular was al-fata. The plural of al-fata is al-fityatu. The second word we have, al-tiwal, which is the plural of tawil. Oh, yes, we have to match the adjectives, right? So in the singular, this was tawil. In the plural, it's tiwal. So here we go. This is exactly what we were talking about in the very beginning. We have a sifa mawsuf. We have an adjective and the noun it describes. And they have to agree in 4 things. The first thing, definite, right? Alif lam, alif lam. The second thing, grammatical case, marfu', marfu'. The third thing, masculine. The fourth thing, now we have plural. Al-fityatu is the plural of al-fata. Al-tiwalu is the plural of tawil, which is why, if you've ever had any experience teaching anyone from the Arab world, the Arab-speaking world, English, the first mistakes they will make when trying to speak English is they will pluralize their adjectives, right? They will say, they are talls instead of they are tall. Because in English, we do not pluralize those adjectives, right? They're simply translating from their language. In Arabic, literally, we're just going to say, who these boys talls, O Ali. Right? Crazy, right? Which is why now we're going to see why less and less we're going to be able to translate in our head less and less and less. Because the forms are going to stop corresponding to our native language or English, right? This does not correspond very well with English syntax or usage, right? So we have to train our mind to think, okay, it's not, these tall boys. It's man ha'ula'i. This is like who are al-fityatu tiwal. And your tongue will get used to it and your brain will get used to it. Okay. Second part, hum. Now we're going to answer hum. We've learned before, hum is the subject pronoun, they. So this is mubtada khabar, okay? Hum is the mubtada. The khabar is going to be everything else. We're going to explain who they are. They, the subject. What's the information about the subject? Tullabun jududun. Tullab is the plural of what?
طالب.
That's right. Exactly. We love to talk about school here. Lifelong learners. So talibun and talib is technically I'm not exactly sure why, but they consider it non-human, and so it is a broken plural. The broken plural of which is طلاب, with a dhamma on top of the ta, a doubled lam, and an alif. Whew. Look at how far we came from talib. We replaced the alif somewhere else. We doubled the lam. We changed all the harakat. Completely broken. And we have the plural of jadid because this is sifa mawsuf. It has to agree in 4 things. Okay? This is nakira. This is indefinite. This is indefinite. This is marfu'. This is marfu' because they're both khabar. This is masculine. This is masculine. This is plural. This is plural. So the plural of jadid, which is new, is judud. See how we lost a letter. Okay? Everybody see what we're, yeah, it's really, really changing gears here from the several lessons prior.
How come for feminine it's طالبات? So how come that's not broken?
That's a good question. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. Because it would be talibun. I'll say this. There are some words where it's acceptable to use both. There are. There are some words where it's acceptable to use talibun and tullab, for example. And I believe talib, it's acceptable to use both. And you can see why, because student, yes, it is probably exclusive for humans, right? But it's not something that is immediately talking about humans, such as Muslim, right? Or, people or things like this. Boys.
How are students not human?
Yeah. No.
Like dog school?
I mean, when it comes to Arabic, you would use, if you've trained a dog, right? Like I don't know. I mean, like, we make the rules and the rules get us close, but they're never 100%, right? So, there is talk in the Quran, I think in Surah Al-Ma'idah, Allah says he doesn't use tulab, but he uses the word to teach to talk about the process of training dogs, right? So I don't know. Fatah, also a good point from the Sayyids, right? Young boys, young men. I don't know the root of this word. If we go back to the origin of the root, does it apply to just humans, or is it something else that's kind of a coinage, right? Like kids in English, I think originally applied to the children of, or the offspring of goats, and then we use it now for human children because of the similarity of mischief that they get into and stuff like that, and how darn cute they are, right? So if I go back into the history of the Arabic language, will I find that fatah means something that originally is not human, and then it became through usage to be primarily associated with humans? Perhaps. I don't know. I would have to hit pause for that. But the rules get us close, right? Yeah. But they don't take us all the way. So good. Al-fityatu from al-fatah, you're right, does not follow broken plural. At-talib or at-tulab from at-talib does not follow sound plural. Let's keep going. Okay, continue. Go ahead. Back to star 1, star 2. Go ahead, Syra and Musarat.
من أين هم؟
هم من أمريكا.
نعم هم.
No, the previous one.
This one right here.
وهم أهم زمكوكا.
نعم هم زملائي هم في فصلي.
Very good. Pause. Okay. Zumala is the plural of Zamil.
Zamil.
That's right. So we learned before that Zamil is a colleague or a classmate or something like that. And so the plural of it, also a broken plural, despite the rule that was introduced. Zumala. And we have to, this is it with the, with nothing attached to it. Once we attach ka, your classmates, then it becomes with sitting on top of the waw and the kaf. Zumala. Naam hum zumala'i. Notice again, and I'm not going to go through the rules now because it, like I said it before, it's complicated, but notice how, depending on the harakat, it's going to change the way that we write the hamza. The base form of zumala, there's a hamza on the line by itself. Zumala'uka, it sits on top of a waw. Zumala'i, it sits on top of what's called the nabira, which is basically as if it's any sort of letter. Hum fi fasli, they are in my class. Okay, here we go. Now we're going to get some sound plurals. Alhamdulillah. Let's go to Brother Sa'ir and Brother Muhsin. Brother Sa'ir, do star 1. Dr. Muhsin, star 2.
Inshallah. You talking about?
Right from here.
Okay. Ahum mujtahiduna.
نعم هم مجتهدون.
ما أسماؤهم.
أسماؤهم ياسر وزكريا وموسى وعبد الله.
ومن هؤلاء الرجال القصار.
Good.
هم حجاج.
Fantastic. Pause. Okay, great job, guys. Okay, so the first thing that we have is mujtahidun. That's a sound masculine plural from mujtahid, right? Mujtahid means hardworking. And, again, imperfect rules. You could imagine hardworking as applying to more than human beings, but here, for whatever reason, it is a sound masculine plural. So mujtahid is our base form. Mujtahidun, sound masculine plural. Are they hardworking? Yes, they are hardworking. Asma'uhum, ism, right, is the singular for name. Plural is asma. Lahul asma'ul husna. Right, we say about Allah has the most beautiful names. Now notice with asma, two things. First of all, this hamza is a hamza to al-qata' in ism, in the singular form. In the plural form, this is a, excuse me, I misspoke. This is a hamza to al-wasl in the singular form, and this is a hamza to al-qata' in the plural form. Okay, that changes the way you read it. You're always going to pronounce the hamza in the plural form. Asma, asma. Also notice, again, our rules with hamza. We have hamza by itself on the line here. And then we have, when we attach to it uhum, now it's sitting on top of a waw. Ma asma uhum, and then he lists Yasirun, wa Zakariya, wa Musa, wa Abdullahi. Very good. We have ha'ula'i again, wa man ha'ula'i, meaning these, demonstrative pronoun for something close but plural. And now we get into another confounding word which seems to apply to human beings but is actually a broken plural, al-rijal. So before we learned that, the singular for man is ar-rajul. And actually, ar-rajul is derived from the word for leg, rijl. Rijl is the word for leg in Arabic, because the man is expected to walk and to go out and to seek provision and to provide the livelihood. And so that's why men are kind of named for this activity of going out and going around and stuff like that. Al-rajulu becomes al-rijalu. rijal. So you see clearly how the broken plural, right? The initial singular noun is all broken up. We've introduced an alif. We've changed the harakats. The fatha on the ra went to a kasra. The dhamma on the jim went to a fatha, etc., etc. And then qisar is the plural of qasir. So qasir is short. I guess it's not an insult over there to say these short guys. Qasir, short. Qisar is the plural. And finally, hum hujjajun. Okay, this is the plural of hajjun, which is a person on hajj, a pilgrim. The plural, hujjaj. So we've added an extra jim, and we've added an alif. And we've changed this to a dhamma. Any questions? How's everybody doing?
Unrelated question.
Yes.
Zakaria and Musa are mabni.
Yes, correct. Zakaria and Musa are mabni.
That means they're not Arabic.
In this particular situation, yes. Not everything that is mabni is not Arabic. But in these cases,
No, I mean names, people.
yes, yes,
In the Quran, anyway.
yes.
Like because when I say not Arabic, obviously the whole Quran is Arabic. But I mean,
You're right. You're right. No, this is, that whole thing is a semantic issue, right? So some people say, okay, linguistically, Musa is not an Arabic name. Zakaria is not an Arabic name. They came before Arabic was a language, right? And then some people will say, well, wait a second. But Allah says that the Quran is in Arabic, right? But this is, it's a non-issue because in English, right, we have words that come from other languages, right?
yeah, like veranda.
Yeah, everything. Like lemon comes from Arabic, right?
Yeah.
Limun. And pants, pantaloon comes from, and everything else from Roman, from Latin, from French, from German, from all these sorts of languages, right? But through usage, they become English. Can anybody say that pants is not an English word? No, nobody can say that just because it has a linguistic root somewhere else, right? So in Arabic, in the Quran, there are words, not a whole lot, honestly, but there are words that have roots that are Persian or roots that are other languages, even.
But then they got Arabized, I guess.
Yes, exactly. And especially the names of the prophets from Aramaic and from Hebrew, other Semitic languages that existed before Arabic, right? But they got Arabized, and through usage, they are just as Arabic as, Kitabun and anything else. So yes. So these are fixed, correct. Zakaria, Musa, they are marfu', just like Yasirun and Abdullahi, but we can't tell, we can't see it because they're fixed upon their respective alifs.
And also similar to English, the way we use short and, well, in English we use short and long and short and tall.
Yes.
But in Arabic, because we say like sabat tiwal and we say kisar al munfasil, so we do use that for non-human adjective as well. As in, like in English, if we were talking about a human being, we would say short and tall. But if we were using it for an inanimate object, we would say short and long.
Yes, that's a very nice distinction. Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. That's true. In Arabic, there's no separate.
Because we say sabat tiwal and then we say kisar al munfasil. So it's like, yeah.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. What Sister Masarat's telling us is that one of the differences in English, we distinguish between human and non-human nouns when we describe their length by saying something is long or something is tall, right? Non-human, we would say it's long. Human, we would say it's tall. In Arabic, there's no distinction. They use qasir and tawil for both human and non-human, right? Which might explain, perhaps, why it is a broken plural. Good stuff. Okay, How much longer? Okay, let's just finish this dialogue and then we will dismiss because we're all over time already. We have Brother Muhammad Mu'tasim and Brother Muhammad Tariq, are you there?
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Okay, let's have Brother Muhammad Tariq be *1, mean Ainahum, and Brother Muhammad Mu'tasim be *2.
من أين هم؟
بعضهم من الصين وبعضهم من اليابان.
Good.
أين المصطفى وأصدقاؤه؟
ذهبوا إلى المطعم.
Very good. Excellent job, both of you. Okay, so what do we have here? More of the same. Min Ainahum, where are they from? No, Sister Musarat, don't worry about it. Like I said, it's a semantic issue. It's a semantic issue. It's a non-issue. This is something that people introduced in order to try to cast a doubt on the Quran. To say, oh, the Quran says it's all Arabic, but look at these words. But anybody who takes literally 5 seconds to think about it knows that the way that languages evolve, it doesn't mean that the Quran doesn't have words that are it doesn't mean that the Quran is free from words that originated in another language, right? It means that it means that every word in the Quran is understood as an Arabic word. Yes, of course it was. It was an Orientalist argument, and it was also an argument of some of the really esoteric sects that tried to basically make the Quran seem inscrutable so that they could read meanings into certain things that weren't there, right? Because if there are words in the Quran that aren't Arabic, then we could say that, okay, this word, it looks like kitab, it looks like book, but it really means this other thing, right? So it's all about the scope of meaning and stuff like that. Okay. Ba'duhum. Okay, the word ba'd means some or part. Very important word. Ba'd. So ba'duhum, mudaf mudaf ilay, some of them, min as-sin, are, this is mubtada, khabar, min as-sini. Khabar is from China. Sin is China. Like Sino-Russian relations. We even have that in English, right? We use the suffix Sino. I think it comes from the same root, Sin. Sin is China. وَبَعْدُهُمْ مِنَ الْيَابَانِ. And others of them, or some of them, are from Japan. Fairly straightforward. And then the last thing, أَيْنَ الْمُصْطَفَى وَأَصْدِقَاؤُهُ. Where is al-Mustafa and his friends? So we have our last plural here, which is Sadiq, friend. If you've ever gone to Medina, you know that most of the South Asian residents of Medina, they say, yeah, Sadiq, Sadiq, they call you friend, which is different from how Arabs usually address you. They usually say Hajj, yeah, Hajj, oh pilgrim, right? They usually say Sadiq, which is friend, and the plural is asdiqa'u. So look at how broken that is. We add a hamza in the beginning. We add an alif later on. We add all sorts of things. Asdiqa'u. ذهبوا, they went إلى المطعم. Al-mat'am is the restaurant or a cafeteria. Okay, I'll point out 2 things and then we'll go, because I know we're over time. Okay, restaurant. Let's say cafeteria. Here it probably means cafeteria because it is in a school setting, right? Let's check out how we get there. Okay, so we said earlier when I was giving examples, how coincidental, Qadr Allah, ta'am is food. Okay, that means that the root word is ta, ain, mim. If we make mim plus ta with a sukoon, ain, mim, it is the place of eating or the place of food. Okay, this is a morphological pattern. Okay, maktab, the place of writing. So basically what we're looking for, if we're going to isolate the phonetic pattern, it would be on the pattern of maf'al, the place where something happens. Mesken, the place where you repose or you rest. Maktab, the place where you write.
So what about musalla?
Musalla is different because salah is a fi'l naqis. It's a verb that has an irregular phonetic thing to it because it has
Oh, so it even affects the mean?
No, it also is on form 2, right? So this is, if we're talking about our form, our babs of, or what do you call it? Our verb forms. This is for form 1. For form 2, it's different, and we'll get into there later, right? But for form 1, maf'al.
So it'll be masjid, but it'll be musalla. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sajda, masjid. Yes. And the last little thing that we have here, dhahabu. Dhahabu. Okay. We learned before dhahaba, he went. Then we learned dhahabat, she went. Now we're learning third person, plural. It's all coming plural. Yes. We were doing plural nouns. Now we're doing plural verbs. Past tense. Dhahaba is the stem. Bu means they went. Dhahabu.
How come the rule of 2 sakin letters doesn't apply here?
Where?
Because there's a waw and there's an alif.
The alif is a placeholder. Here, the alif is not an actual letter. If you see it in the Quran, it will have like an egg-shaped circle above it, which is not a sukoon. It actually means that it's
the one that says don't pronounce it. Right.
yes, it's a silent letter, right? And it's just a placeholder because if I recall correctly, it's because if it weren't there, then this would resemble other types of words that it's not. And so in order to avoid resembling other types of words, which is big in Arabic, it has an alif as a placeholder that's not pronounced. So dhahabu. And my what I will say last thing, we're way over time, is that for conjugation, I said that, I find conjugating with hand motions to be very, very effective for learning it and getting it down and establishing those connections in your brain, right? So the basic idea of learning verb conjugation is to point in a direction that reflects the person, right? So third person will be over here to the side because you're talking about someone who isn't present. Second person, you're going to be pointing right ahead of you because you're talking to somebody. First person, you're going to be talking at yourself because you're talking about yourself. And then the other part is however many fingers you hold up reflects whether it's singular or plural. Okay, so the way that I prefer to teach verb conjugation, you've learned 2 forms that you can practice. You can go dhahaba, dhahabu. Okay, you see how that works? I'm pointing to the side both times because it's third person. I'm using my index finger to indicate singular, dhahaba. And I'm using all 4 fingers to indicate plural, dhahabu. And you can take any verb that you've learned up until this point and practice with this technique, and it will help you remember. Kataba, katabu. Jalasa, jalasu. Anything else, Qara'a, to read, qara'u, etc., etc. Okay, we're way over time. Anyone have any questions?
Yes, sorry.
Oh,
Dahabu,
no problem.
So there is no gender difference in this day. We can just use for either gender.
For which one is that we're talking about?
Dahabu.
Oh, good. Okay, so this is something that we will get into more detail later. In Arabic, just like in the Romance languages, there's something that's called taghlib, which is that the masculine form is used for groups that are both exclusively masculine and for mixed groups. There is a separate form for a group that is only female, but we will learn that at a later time, right? The masculine form is the default. It applies to both groups of men and groups of that are mixed. So we'll learn that first, and we'll get to the feminine forms later.
Thank you.
Yes, good question. Any other questions? Great work, everybody. Exciting things lie ahead of us. Amin wa yakum. Okay, I'll see you next time, inshallah ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.